August 29th, Fred Luter. Even if we lose everything, God is with us. Fred Luter sat quietly in his daughter's Birmingham apartment as he sipped an iced tea and stared angrily at the television newscast. Days after Hurricane Katrina slammed the Gulf Coast, the city he loved, his hometown, New Orleans, was underwater. Begging to be saved, frightened residents stood on rooftops. Others gathered at the convention center searching for food. Hundreds were dead. Hundreds more were missing. A string of thoughts swirled through Luter's head. The city shouldn't have flooded. People shouldn't have been stranded. It shouldn't be this way. Not in 2005. Not in the most powerful nation on the planet. Not in the United States. Days earlier, Luter and his wife had evacuated from New Orleans to Birmingham, assuming their stay would be short. But at this point, New Orleans was uninhabitable. They couldn't go back. Their house was flooded, their neighborhood too, and their beloved church, Franklin Avenue Baptist, which he had built from 65 members in 1986 to more than 7,000 2 decades later. Well, the building had taken on 10 feet of water. New Orleans had survived the hurricane's winds only to succumb to floodwaters when the levees broke. Luter was mad at the mayor, the governor, and the president. He was even mad at God. I looked up to heaven and I said, God, why don't you do something? God, this is America. God, this is not right. People need water. People need food. For the first time in my life, my faith was literally shaken like it had never been shaken before. There were other problems. Most church members fleeing the destruction and perhaps looking for a fresh start were spread across the South. Luter had lost his church building and he had lost his congregation. But God provided hope. Pastors throughout the nation phoned and pledged their help in rebuilding. First Baptist, a sister New Orleans church that had escaped damage, invited the 1,000 remaining members of Luter's church to hold services there. Luter reconnected with church members in other cities, in Baton Rouge and Birmingham and Houston, and he began holding church services in those cities too. He became a circuit preacher, traveling thousands of miles each month in his Jeep Cherokee to minister to his flock. They hugged and cried and laughed. It was like a family reunion, and Luter was encouraged. But God wasn't finished. 2.5 years after Katrina, Franklin Avenue's building reopened with 4,000 joy-filled members and residents in attendance. The dirty water and smelly sludge was gone, replaced with brand new carpet and tiles. When adversity strikes, it's helpful to remember the word of the Lord to the prophet Isaiah. He said, I am the Lord your God who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Isaiah 41:13. Are you in a storm? Are you confused by life's trials? Have you lost everything? If so, remember you are not alone. Years after Katrina, Luter would say, I don't care what you're going through. He's walking with you. He's there all the time. Even if we lose everything, God is with us.
Hello, I'm Michael Borner with Mission 17, and today's story is about an amazing pastor, Pastor Fred Luter. And in Fred's life's journey, he encountered literal, unexpected storms that threatened to derail his faith and his purpose. And just like the biblical road to Damascus, Pastor Fred Luter faced a pivotal moment when he crashed a motorcycle, forever changing the trajectory in his life. It's amazing how God often uses these life-flashing moments to recalibrate our spiritual direction for the better. In embracing the call into ministry, he faithfully served his hometown, the beautiful New Orleans, watching God bless and grow Franklin Avenue Baptist Church from, get this, 65 people to over 7,000. And then to see another life-flashing, faith-shaking moment occur as the hurricane impact of Katrina devastated and dispersed its people, leaving 10 feet of floodwaters, $100 billion in damage, and over 1,300 lives lost in New Orleans. But Pastor Fred clung to hope, persevering as a circuit preacher in his trusty Jeep Cherokee, visiting his parishioners town to town. And with unwavering determination, after 2.5 years, Pastor Fred reopened the church in the face of adversity. He stood tall in his spiritual conviction, and 4,000 people attended the triumphant return. And I have to believe this unimaginable, catastrophic loss of all he had worked to build galvanized his faith in Christ and prepared him to take on the immense leadership responsibilities of the Southern Baptist denomination. And Pastor Fred's story reminds us that even amidst life's tempests, God can rebuild, restore, and multiply our faith and blessings. And let us be challenged to draw inspiration from Pastor Fred's persevering faith, knowing that in Christ we can overcome any storm. God's blessings on your day and our persevering faith.